Hey everybody, hi. It's good to see you. Welcome to the Thursday night Thursday afternoon Twitch stream. The show, as it is kind of called Quilts and Chips, but I don't think that that's. I don't know. I mean, it is Quilts and Chips. I mean, tonight I have sweet chili and sour cream. Woohoo! They're really good. Just a little bit of spice. I hope you're well. I hope you'll say hello when you arrive. I got a perm. We'll talk a little bit more about it, but I love it. I'm loving it. I said I was going to. Hey, Virginia. Hi, Michelle. Okay, Michelle. I have to start learning. You core members, right? I have to make sure I'm calling you by your name, right? Because Michelle, you're Michelle. You're Virgin me, but you're Michelle too. Hey, White Timber Cottage, Caroline, hi. Just So Viv, I love the hair too. I mean, I am living for it. I am so excited about it. All of my Meg Ryan fantasies are coming true. My 1980s, I mean, like, look, when I have it's 7 o'clock here in London, so I had to have my glass of wine. I don't always have it on the streams, but tonight I do. I mean, look at my, what am I going to do about my boyfriend? It's a very, 1980s, look, which is, it's just what I was going for. So I'll tell you all about it. Hey, Carol. I love it. I'll tell you, though. He was brilliant. When more people get into the room, I'll talk a little bit more about it. He missed a spot, which is surprising because he was so careful and he was so great. And it took a while, but it didn't take all day. And I was prepared for that to take all day. But he really kind of missed a spot. And I don't know why. I'm not sure. So I kind of pinned it back. But usually, I mean, it's so fluffy. It's so fluffy. I wanted it to be fluffy. I was dying for the fluff. Hey, Molly Squared. You're Andrea's neighbor. The one you appliqued. I'm almost done. It's in the other room. So if you don't know, on my Instagram, Andreas. Okay, so I know that White Timber Cottage. Hey, Just So Viv. Viv's got pizza and wine. Love it. Andreas. So we know White Timber Cottage is in Germany because Andrea won a giveaway on my Instagram, but she lives in Germany. And the box that she won is in Chicago. And I have little elves that help me, with these giveaways. And so they emailed me, the elves, and they said, well, the winner this time is in Germany, and it's like $80 to send the box. Do you have any other ideas? Could you make something, since you're in Europe, could you do something for the winner? And could we talk to her and see if that's okay? And Andrea, of course, or Andrea, was like, sure. When I suggested I make her a little, I'll show you. Of course I'll show you. It's in the other room. It's not like it's, it's not like it's getting a perm and it has to be gone for 3 hours. Hang on. Okay. I found it. And I think when I showed it last, I hope I've done more on it, I'm sure. Okay, yeah. So I'm making her a little, that's the second, I'm making a little applique, banner of her name. And I don't know, I'm going to make the patchwork, and then, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to be, but it's Andrea. Whoop. Sorry, I should have pinned it, but I didn't know I was going to show it. Andrea. And it's Liberty of London Fabrics. And it's real cute. I really like how it's turning out. So I've got 2 more A's to sew on. I've been so busy that I haven't finished it, but it's really nice to have you here, White Timber Cottage. Yeah, well, you know, maybe I'll do some more giveaways with, I mean, I'm happy to be sewing for someone. That's pretty cool. And I have something else I'm working on that I haven't shared on social media or anything else. Let me make sure this thing is set up. Hang on now. Okay. I have something else. I mean, I started in on this yesterday. I have it in my lap. It's not something that I'm gonna show you on the screen. But I have to look at this. Okay, I have to set up that thing. So here's the story. I made a quilt a long time ago that I hand quilted, and I didn't really like it. I didn't do that great of a job on it. I didn't feel, and so I've always thought about that. I've always thought about the hand quilting job that I did and how I didn't really like it. I mean, you know, people are always really critical of the quilts that they make, usually pretty critical. And that's okay. A lot of times it's not, you know, it's not warranted. A lot of times you did just fine on your quilt, but you think you didn't do very well. But to be honest with you, I really, looking back at this, yeah, it's good. You need to get, is Andrea here? White Timber Cottage, you should get her to come on and hang out with us. A lot of times, you know, anyway, so when I would look at this quilt that was hand quilted, I was not, I mean, it was pretty bad. Like, there were things that I didn't really know how to do that I just jumped in and started hand quilting this thing. It's one of my favorite quilt tops that I've ever made, but the quilting was just, it wasn't good. I looked at it and I didn't want to show it off, you know? And I love the piecing, but I was never okay with how it turned out with the quilting. So I'm tearing out the quilting. Yeah. I started months ago, but I have slowly been ripping it out. Last night, Eric and I watched a movie because my lovely husband and I he's here and we're watching movies, and it's a kaleidoscope quilt. Sorry, it's a kaleidoscope quilt pattern, old as the hills. I mean, it's just classic as can be. I'll show you the block a little bit more closely. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful quilt top. I'm quite happy with it. But this, you know, I'll show you the quilting, right? I mean, I'm not happy. It looks like big stitch quilting. Let me see. Now I have to look at my monitor to see how this is going to work. But, you know, I didn't know what I was doing. I just jumped in, and you know, it's not great. You know, it's like, I don't know if you can see that or not, but I want it to be better. I really like this quilt and I want it to be better. And so months ago, I mean, maybe a year ago or so, I decided that I wanted to do this. I wanted to take the quilting out and start over. And I started in on it. I started with my seam ripper, taking the quilting stitches out. And it was kind of like, what am I doing? Hey, Pip. It's great to see you too. So I started ripping it out, and I thought, well, you got to keep going. Otherwise, you've just got a ruined quilt, basically. So then we came to England, and I could only take so much. I brought quilts that I use in my lectures that I do, but I didn't bring this because, I don't know. I mean, what do you bring with you when you can't bring that much? Do I bring that quilt that I'm gonna re-quilt? You know, these things are heavy, as you know, if you've ever traveled with quilts. So when Eric was in DC briefly, or when he was in the States briefly last week, get your tech all figured out. I have to get it figured out too every time. when Eric was in the States, he went through Chicago, and he asked me, you know, what do you need? You know, I can go by and get a few things. And I said, will you grab that quilt? And I showed him a picture, and he got it. And I have been going through and ripping out the quilting. I mean, it's happening. Look the binding. Look at this. I mean, the binding it's detached. It's detached. And it's a strange thing to do. I mean, I don't know. I guess I've heard, have you ever re-quilted a quilt? I feel like I've never heard of anybody doing that. But I also know that people who aren't happy with the quilts that they make, like if they make a quilt that they're like ashamed of, or that they don't want to show off, they don't usually talk about it. And so it may be that someone has re-quilted a quilt, or even remade a whole quilt, because they didn't want to let's see. Okay, because they didn't want to talk about it, right? They just remade the whole thing better. You don't hear about it much, but I'm not ashamed to confess that I have started this journey. So let me know if you've ever done that yourself. Whoops. Okay, great. Okay, not a whole quilt, Viv says, but about one third of something. Yeah. So I'm tearing it out, you know, and I'm doing it over. So that's what I'm working on, but I need to finish Andrea's letters. That's what I need to do. And okay, Bip. Now wait a minute. You're in the process of taking apart a quilt. Viv, you said, oh, free motion, right? You did not like free motion. I hear you, Viv. I hear you. Free motion is really hard. And what's interesting, and Bip, will you put in the chat a little bit more of what you mean, like what you're doing and why? I would love to know that. But the thing is, Viv, is like, you can practice on a quilt square, you know, free motion quilting. You can practice a lot. And you should, if you're going to do free motion on a long arm or on your domestic, like practice, right? But it's like showtime when it's your actual quilt, you know, and you have to, and I mean, it's now or never, right? You put your beautiful quilt sandwich under the sewing machine and you start to quilt it. And if you make some false starts, I mean, it feels terrible. I've done that before. I mean, I was sewing big bed-size quilts on my domestic a couple times, and then on a mid-arm, and like, I totally screwed up stuff that I hated. But at that point, what are you gonna do? Yep, long arm is all about muscle memory. So true. So you need to practice making your quilts, right? Or quilting your quilts. But you can't practice unless you do it, right? Like, you have to practice on the quilts that you've made. And so it's like, you know, it's terrifying. Viv says you need the practice. Same. And actually, yeah, exactly. So yeah, Bip, I'm really curious about what your experience has been with that. So let's see. Yeah, so I'm tearing it out. We'll see what happens. While we're gonna wait to hear from Bip, if you want to talk about it, Bip, you don't have to. You don't have to talk about your pain of taking apart a quilt. But I'd love to know. I hope everybody's doing well. I had an interview just now with a very special person. I'm gonna pull up a picture of the thing. I love hand quilting. White Timber Cottage, what's your name? Well, you don't have to say. I can call you Timber. Unconventional and Unexpected. Molly Squared, hi! Rip it all out, Molly. I'm with you. kill your darlings, you know, just go wild. I'm completely with you, Molly, completely. So some of you may know this book. Some of you may recognize this immediately. And Bip, if you want to share more about your story, I will pause and go back to that. But until we do that, do you know this book? Are you, oh, Caroline. Okay, Caroline. That's right. You said that. Caroline. Okay, Mostly Quilts. Hey, Mostly Quilts. Mostly Quilts says, I completely took apart a quilt that I had done Quilt As You Go. And she remade the quilt in the traditional way. Oh, interesting. It's on my YouTube video called Hang a Quilt Outside, just like Mary Fons, episode 2. Really? Are you serious? If so, you got to put the link in the chat because everyone should go watch that. No matter what it's called. If you have a YouTube channel, everyone should go to that YouTube channel and subscribe and like and all of that stuff. Because it turns out it really matters. That looks awesome. And I would like to see it, Mostly Quilts. So please put the link in the chat. Okay, and Bip says there's a black and white, or sorry, a black, red, white log cabin that you made years ago, and you love the top, but you hate the quilting. Same thing. Same thing with this. It's not okay. This kaleidoscope jobby is fabulous. I'm so happy with it. It's one of my favorite quilts I've ever made, and I never want to show it because the quilting is bad. So I see you. I see you. Great. At work and listening on the side, that is like totally the way to do this. I mean, it's one way to listen to this stream is if you're at work, you're doing laundry, maybe you're sewing, you can have this on in the background or off to the side. And before I jump into this unconventional and unexpected book, I realized that I didn't welcome people who are new. And I hope that you will let people know if you like this stream, if you're into it. Because the more people we have in the room, the more exciting it kind of gets because people are chatting and they're sharing things and links and so forth. Carolyn ripped out a quilting for a friend. And she would never rip quilting out for a friend again. I get it. It's taking a long time. And the more quilting that you have on a quilt, the longer it'll take. So, this stream is about hanging out. It's about learning stuff together, finding quilts and finding quilt history and finding quilts all around us that we don't actually notice. Even as people who love quilts and who eat, sleep, and breathe them, there's a lot out there in the world that has a lot to contribute to our understanding of quilts, and there's a lot out there that that we might not notice, even as quilt makers and as quilt lovers, because the quilt shows up in unlikely places. I love to talk about quilts. I love to learn about them, and what Twitch is able to do is to it creates a platform for us to talk and think and look at quilt stuff together. And I love that because I'm always going down the rabbit hole. I'm always sort of letting my imagination and my curiosity take me to this place or that place, right? On the internet or at the library or whatnot. And I want to share that with you because we love this stuff. So I don't want to wait to share it with you until I get to a lecture stage, or like maybe I come to your gig, to your guild doing a gig, and I can share stuff with you there. And over the course of the pandemic, I'm looking into the camera right now. I'm looking into the void, If you stare at the webcam stares into you, I'm looking into the black dot, but I know that you're there. And over the course of the pandemic, I've gotten a lot of experience giving guild talks to the black dot. And what's been so good to know giving those talks is that there are people on the other side. And that gives me the energy and the pep that I need to deliver a really good lecture. what's wonderful about this platform is that I can do that with you, but you have the ability to, it's more casual. I'm not being paid to give you a presentation that has been polished, into some beautiful, beautiful thing. It's rougher than that, and it's more casual than that, which means you can talk to me and I can talk to you and all that good stuff. Mostly quilts. Hey, Firefly. I'm going to call you Firefly. The link is in the chat. If we have, at the end of this whole big thing, we're going to look at it. Okay. I keep freezing. Okay. Hang on. So there's some technical stuff going on. Let me see if I can do something. Okay. Hang on. I'm gonna fix. Okay, Bip. We'll see you soon. I'm gonna fix this. Okay, I think I know how to fix the thing that's happening, like the freezing. So let me do that, and I'm here. I'm gonna put on a having technical difficulty screen, but I'll be here behind the scenes working on that. So hang on, and I think I know how to fix it. Okay, so let's check this out. I'm getting good at Twitch, so I have like a screen ready for this. Check it out. Okay. Hi. I hope I think I did something that will help. I think so. It's kind of cool. Like Eric and I sat down the other day and we really looked at Twitch, right? Like, what is this platform? How do we make it better? Or how can we make this thing even more fun for you all? How can we, and by we, I mean, you know, me with his help, you know, because he's awesome and we're a team, you know? So, so we're looking at this stuff together and like, you know, like subscriptions and like building an audience and how to make your channel, you know, really great, like technically, you know, making sure you don't have technical glitches, at least making sure you can do everything you can to keep your internet running smoothly, so things are on, you know, that need to be on and stuff in the background isn't on, stuff like that. So if you're new or if you've been here, this is gonna grow, and I hope you'll be here to see it grow, because the fun that we've had so far, you know, and you know, the most people that have been in a room at any given time, I think we had like 25 people in here the other day, another day, you know, 15, and that to me is amazing. It's amazing. And the feedback, I've gotten emails from several of you who are like, this is awesome, I love it. And that means so much to me. And so I know that since I'm having fun and other people are having fun, there's something here. And the goal to grow it is simply to share this with more people. Because if you've been here before, you know, this is fun. This is good. This is a good time, you know? So let's get into that good time. And I will talk about my perm, but I want to make sure that people who are new to this don't think they're just coming on to listen to Mary talk about her hair. You know, hey, naked you, the naked you. I think about a sheared sheep, you know. Maybe that's what you're going for. Maybe it isn't. I don't know, but I love it. The naked you haven't missed too much, and not in terms of quilt content. What's happened so far is I showed some patchwork that I'm working on for a friend in Germany, and I showed a quilt that I'm working on, and we talked about ripping out quilting that you don't like. So when you go back and watch this, and to answer your question, Caroline, yes, all of the Twitch streams that we do are recorded by Twitch, and they're posted on my Twitch page, my channel page, for 60 days. But one of the things that Eric and I have been looking at and learning about is that I can post these Twitch streams to YouTube, like immediately. Like I didn't think that would be possible, but it is allowed, or whatever, to post your Twitch content to YouTube. And okay, the naked you is a knitter. That makes sense. That's great. It's a great name. The thing is about watching these streams after the fact on YouTube, that's great. And a lot of people may learn about the channel because of that. But what I'm hoping is, you know, people who watch the videos on YouTube will be like, I want to see this live. Like, I want to come over to the stream when I can and hang out and watch it live, you know, and participate, because that's like the really cool part of this, you know. So this is what I want to look at first. And I've got one starting point for us, but then I don't know. Last time on Tuesday, it was amazing. That stream was amazing. I loved it. We started with one quilt. The quilt that was on the screen, we just kind of investigated it. And it took us all over. That's the point, right? I just had a quilt, pardon me. I had picked a random quilt and put it on my desktop so that when you came into the room, you'd see a quilt and it would be pretty. But then we looked a little deeper into what that quilt was, and we were off, you know? And I love that. And we went everywhere. We went to 4 genres of quilts. We talked about modern quilts by the end. You know, this old, like, silk, potentially Norwegian-made quilt from, like, the 18th century led us all the way around to modern quilts, and it was so much fun. Yes, yeah, exactly. Tell her that she can watch the videos right now on my Twitch channel, but pretty soon on YouTube as well. Okay. So here, pardon me, I have a chip. I need a chip. I pulled up one thing for us to start with, and it's here. I'll show you. It's the quilt you were looking at earlier. Tonight, why I brought up the last stream is because tonight's kind of the same way. I've found something that I want to look at with you. It's a quilt that is it's a photograph of a quilt that lives in the Library of Congress. Okay? And I want to know more, not just about this quilt, but about the Library of Congress has pictures. I mean, they have so much. Okay, it's the Library of Congress, but look at this. They have this section of quilts. You got it, Firefly. I'm so glad you're here. Come back next time. Find a stream time that works for you. Watch it, over again and tell a friend. Thrilled. Thank you for coming. I'm thrilled that you're around. It's awesome. So a lot of times I've looked through this file in the Library of Congress, but I've never really dug into what it is and like who these people are and what this project was. It's like a Folklife project that was done in the 60s. And so I want to look at it with you. And there's so much in this particular file in the Library of Congress, and I've never really looked at it. There are audio recordings. These people who look, Quilts and Quilt Making in America, 1978 to 1996. They have 605 objects in that category. Blue Ridge Parkway Folklife Project, American Folk. I mean, there's so much to look at. And I never really have. I've looked at the pictures, but I haven't investigated what this is about. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to take a look at these pictures and these people. There's so many people that they interviewed for whatever this is. So that's where I want to go. Her. And I don't want to make you dizzy. We're going to go through all of this stuff. Okay, so that's where we're going to go. But first, I also looked at Yvonne Wells. I want to talk about her at some point, but where? Hang on. Here we go. So, some of you, do you know this book? Unconventional and Unexpected. American Quilts Below the Radar, 1950 to 2000. If you have this book, let me know in the chat. If you don't, then I gotta tell you about it. So, this book... Yeah. Okay, good. Caroline. Yes. Tell your friends. I'm telling you, there's 105 subscribers or something at this point, which is a big deal because I've only been doing this for a month or something. Or not subscribers, followers. There's 100 people following this channel, which is really exciting. But it's all word of mouth, I don't advertise or anything. So I got to get the word out however I can. This book is a classic. It's a new classic. I'm going to open this up in a new page. Is that good? I don't like the resolution there. This book is by Roderick Kiracofe. An image in a new... Okay, great. Thank you, Molly. Yes, exactly. We're going to look at it. And thank you for putting the link in the chat. I know I'm bouncing around, but I'm excited. When I do these, maybe one day I'll calm down, but not yet. Okay, good. Viv knows this book. Sorry, what I was going to say is eventually I would love to have some moderators. And when you do live streams, that is typical. When you have, enough people in the chat, where you might need some moderation for one reason or another. Maybe someone is acting up. Maybe there's a troll in the chat. Maybe people have questions for me or for the group, but I'm talking about something and I miss, your question. A moderator who is assigned by me helps out with things like that. And I could use a hand, I'll be honest. When I put links in the chat or when Molly just put a link in the chat, what I want to do is, Carolyn's talking about, telling Andrea, hey, go back and watch this thing I watched. It was super fun. when Andrea goes to my Twitch channel, I have the titles of the streams, but there's no description, because what I need to do is go back and watch the streams to see what I talked about and what we talked about and the different links that I put in the chat. Basically, I have to rewatch everything to catch all that happened so that I can put it in the description. But what would be great is if someone who's hanging out in here, you know, one of you, like a viewer, could just keep track of that for me and then just send me an email with like, okay, here's what you talked about. You know, you talked about unconventional and unexpected. Okay, great. Here's the link to the pre-order, you know, whatever. Then you went to the Library of Congress, you know, bare bones. But I can't really do that too easily while I'm doing this. So if you're interested in doing that, you know, it's like, you know, I could just use a hand with it. So if you want to, let me know, Mary@maryfons.com. You know, it shouldn't be too hard, but it would really help. It would really help me a lot. Make this good, because I want people who have never seen this before to click on a video and be like, what, quilt rabbit hole, like, what does that mean? And it's like, well, here's what it means. Here's all the stuff we saw. It'd also be helpful for the people who watch the stream, because then they can go back and be like, oh yeah, here's where we saw that thing that I liked, you know? Okay, so let me know in the email. So this book is a classic. And, oh, great. It was published in 2014. And the book is, okay, let me just do this here. Okay. This is Susie Quilts. Let's see. I'm gonna go here and just open it up. In fact, you know what I can do? I'm gonna put this up on the screen so you can look at this nice image of the book, and I'm gonna pull up, actually I hope it's okay, I'm gonna pull up the actual book, the proof of the book, which means I'm gonna pull up the file, the digital file of the book itself. So this book is a collection of quilts owned by and collected by a guy named Roderick Kiracofe. Molly, you're the first one who waved your hand, so email me, okay? And it should be fun. It should be easy. It's basically just cut and paste like what we talk about and put it in an email for me. That'd be awesome. Thank you. Rod Kiracofe is a collector, and he is a curator, and he is a really terrific like human. And he's been collecting remarkable quilts most of his adult life. He's written lots of books. Some of you will remember, hey Star Sundance, so glad you're here. Thank you for coming. Some of you will remember maybe Quilt Digest. Do any of you remember Quilt Digest? Quilt Digest was a publication that they didn't publish too many editions or issues, maybe 4 or 5, but Quilt Digest was published in the 1980s, and it was a perfect bound, you know, beautiful, no ads. It's like a bookazine. It's kind of something people talk about when they talk about Quiltfolk. Like, Quiltfolk's not a magazine, it's a book, they'll say, because there's no ads and it's 164 pages and it's this beautiful photography and great writing. And so people who hear that it's a magazine, they're like, well, it's really a book. Quilt Digest, let me show you. Quilt Digest was kind of like that too. That is the buzzer. Hang on one second. Hang on. Okay, hang on. I love London because everyone has a different accent. This woman just buzzed up to our place and she was like, hello, I'm from next door. Your package was delivered to the wrong building. I'll just put it inside. I was like, oh, no problem. The Quilt Digest was this really cool magazine, bookazine, Quilt Digest. And Rod Kiracofe and his partner, Michael Kyle, made this. Hang on. Okay. So the Quilt Digest, thank you. Technical problems today. I apologize. Michael Kyle was Rod Kirikofe's partner for some time, and Michael Kyle has passed away. And Michael Kyle, when we looked at the AIDS quilt, one thing that I didn't show you because I was like, well, I don't know. I didn't know if it was appropriate or not, but yeah. Michael Kyle's name is on the AIDS quilt, and I guess I could show you that tonight. But because Michael Kyle died of HIV/AIDS, he was Rod's partner for some time, and they were collecting quilts together for a long time, as far as I know. I haven't asked Rod too much about that part of his life. It's public knowledge. They were quite public in the quilt world, you know, as this kind of power couple, right? But one of the things that they did is that they published the Quilt Digest, and you know, one of these days I'll get a copy of the Quilt Digest and maybe, you know, either digitize it or get it some kind of digital file, and we'll look at it together because it's beautiful. It's absolutely gorgeous. I mean, it's, yeah, there were just a few issues of it, but it was glossy and full of history and really cool writing, and I've got all the copies, you know, at home of the Quilt Digest. My mom wrote a short story in one of the issues of the Quilt Digest in the 1980s. I think it's in this edition. But so that was Rod Kiracofe and Michael Kyle. So Rod Kirikofe's been doing quilt stuff for a long time. Okay, this, by the way, is, oh, I gotta show you that quilt. See, this is the rabbit hole. I want to show you the quilt that's on the cover of that copy of Quilt Digest, but I have to mark it down. That's another thing, Molly, you can do, is like try to follow all the things that I want to get to, you know? So Rod wrote a book called, he did the Quilt Digest, and he's a collector. And as Molly said, you know, collecting just means slowly buying things. It's true. Yeah. So, exactly, Carolyn. So he made a book that was also kind of a classic called The American Quilt, A History of Cloth and Comfort, 1750 to 1950. And that was his second book. And then there was this one. And Unconventional and Unexpected is full of quilts that, as the subtitle says, are under the radar. Okay, what does it mean for a quilt to be under the radar? The quilts that Rod began to collect over the years, he collected and sold. He was a dealer. He collected and sold, you know, classic sort of fancy quilts, you could say. He was collecting, he was selling. And I just talked to him, and he said, you know, there was a time after he wrote the first book that he was like, what do I have to say in the quilt world anymore? I'm not sure. But he started collecting quilts that looked more like this. And I'm going to pull up some of the pages from the book. And the reason that I have those pages is when this book came out, when Unconventional and Unexpected came out in 2014, it was a huge hit. I mean, people loved this book with good reason. Gorgeous photographs, absolutely beautiful photography of these quilts. There are, I'm just looking for the thing to show you. There are essays in the front by Kay Fassett, Denise Schmidt, Amelia Peck from the Metropolitan Museum of Art. She's a textile curator there. And the quilts, which you'll see, are just really miraculous, right? They're really beautiful. And they are different. They are under the radar, improvisationally pieced, perhaps. Not so fancy. And by that I mean, you know, there's not like, you know, Baltimore album quilt baskets that are like, you know, little tiny stitches, you know, and sort of perfect in that quilt show way, you know. These quilts have a different provenance, a different vibe. And now I've got it here, and I can open it up for you and show you. Yeah, the who's who in the quilting world. It's really true. Rod Kiracofe is a big name, okay, in the quilt world. So this, I'm gonna shrink this down a little bit. So this is a digital file of the book, and you know, I can show you this because it's you know, it's out there. The first edition of the book was published in 2014, and it was really a sensation. Artists and quilters, I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller so you can really see. Artists and quilters alike were just taken by these wonderful quilts, and Rod's eye for these objects is really great. He finds these wonderful quilts, right, and he collects them. And so the book was so popular, and it became really this cult hit. Okay, this is the copy that I was working on because the book went out of print after some years. Okay, so it was published in 2014, and it was gobbled up, and people were talking about it and writing about it, and everyone loves this, you know, this book. But when Rod asked the publishing company, you know, about reprinting it, doing a second edition, because it was sold out, you couldn't get it anymore. When he talked to them about that, they were like, we don't have plans to republish it. We're not, you know, that's not on our radar. And I think the publishing company he worked with, I'm just scrolling slowly as I tell you the story, the publishing company that he worked with on this publication had been sold or something. The group, perhaps, that he worked with at Abrams in New York City had moved on in whatever ways. These things happen, right? And so they weren't interested in republishing it. And so Rod was like, what am I going to do? You know, this ought to be out there. This book should be out there because so many people love it, and these quilts are so wonderful. So he came to Quiltfolk. He came to me and Mike McCormick at Quiltfolk because he loves Quiltfolk. He loves what we do. He loves the way we do it. He loves how we make that magazine and how we really put a lot of attention and time into the product. And I'll just leave it on these guys for a minute. And so he asked if we would be interested in publishing the second edition of Unconventional and Unexpected. And when I told Mike this, because Rod emailed me about it, and I was just like, I mean, I could hardly believe it. It's an honor to have this opportunity. Of course, you know, we said, yes, we would like to help you do this. And so we've done it. We've done it with Rod together. We worked on it for, you know, well, I mean, a year and a half, just about. And it's done. It's ready. You can order the second edition of Unconventional and Unexpected. Yeah, let's look at that little cats in baskets quilt, because we should. Yeah, you can order a copy at quiltfolk.com, okay? You can pre-order at quiltfolk.com. We have the book now before, you know, Amazon and the other. If someone mentioned pre-ordering on Amazon, and that's great, that's good. It's smart to do that. You can get it on Quiltfolk for $55. It's usually $65. So, you know, if you want to get it a little cheaper, maybe you cancel your Amazon pre-order. I don't know how that works, but we have it, and I have to say, it's beautiful. First of all, let me say it's absolutely everything that the first one was. Okay, so it's got this little cat quilt in it, of course. But it's also got 23 more quilts than it had before. So there are bonus quilts in the book, including this one. This was not in the first book, and I mean, it's just stunning. 23 new quilts. There's a new foreword by Carolyn Mazlumi, and if you know who Carolyn Mazlumi is, you know that that is a pretty big deal. I'm just gonna put Carolyn Mazlumi, put her, you should know about this woman, you should, anything she ever does, pay attention, she's extraordinary. We'll just talk about Carolyn Mazlumi one day, that's just what we'll do. You're in the UK, Viv. Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's a lot. I get it. Now I really get it, because I'm here with you in the UK. It's funny, I did not intend to talk about this tonight, but the reason I, started is because I just interviewed Rod for this little video that I'm going to make, we're going to pass around to the internet, to the people who might be interested in the book, like people at SAQA, the Studio Art Quilt Association. They, those art quilters are bananas about this book, and they always have been, and we'll send it along to the Quilt Museum in Lincoln, Nebraska, so they can send this little video out to their people, because most of the Kiracofe collection is at the Quilt Museum in Lincoln. Rod donated, I think, something like 36, Leslie, if you're watching, 33 or 36 of these magnificent quilts. I'm going to stop on this page because this is one of my favorite quilts of all time, on the left. Most of this collection is at the Quilt Museum in Lincoln, Nebraska. Okay. And so I made this video to share around with these different institutions so they can get the word out. But what I was going to say is, I'm a terrible salesperson, very bad. But you should not wait to get this book. You should get it now if you want it, and I mean it, because when we set like a goal, at Quiltfolk, we were like, okay, let's try to do enough marketing and talk stuff up enough so that we hit this particular goal by, I don't remember when we set it for. Within the first week we hit that goal. Within the first week. And the only marketing we did for it was we sent out an email to the Quiltfolk subscriber list about a pre-order opportunity or whatever, for that $10 off. And some of these people probably told their friends or whatnot, but I it is a fact. It is not a marketing ploy. It's just a fact that within a week we hit that goal. And so, I asked Mike, I was like, well, what happens if we sell out again? There can be more books, but that takes time to print and everything. So there's 23 extra quilts, bonus quilts. There's a new foreword by Carolyn Mazlumi. Ugh, look at this, the terrapin. Look at this quilt. And what also is kind of cool is that, some of these quilts, were sold. I mean, Rod, sorry, I'm going to do full screen on this. I think you'll still be able to see the chat. I hope so. If you can't, you'll get it back soon. But I want to look at these quilts. Look at this. So a lot of these quilts, or some of them at least, the ones that aren't at the Quilt Museum in Lincoln, the International Quilt Museum, some of them have been sold to private collectors, or private, corporations. Nike might have a quilt hanging in an office somewhere, and someone from Nike may have seen a quilt from Rod's collection and wanted it for a corporation. Levi Strauss actually has worked with Rod on various collection things, and so with the second edition, what we were able to do is update the information on these quilts. So, if a quilt that was in the first edition said it was part of Rod's collection and now it belongs to the Met, then that information is now current, which is good, because you might not care so much because, you know, okay, but a quilt historian in the future, a person who, you know, who has some interest in knowing the quilt's provenance, it's really good to know that stuff and to have that updated information. So these are 2 new quilts. These are bonus quilts. Rod loved this Sunbonnet Sioux quilt. I loved the Sunbonnet Sioux quilt. We selected the bonus quilts together, he and I, which, you know, was like a little bit daunting. But we did, and I, you know, was thrilled to be able to collaborate with him on that, because, I mean, he's this great collector. He's this, like, you know, famous collector. And I wanted to learn from him, you know, what does he look for and whatever. But we really collaborated, and we had different things to say about different quilts. Sorry, you know, the Sunbonnet Sioux, there's a reason why, you know, is it the most beautiful, sort of objectively beautiful quilt in the world? I mean, I don't know, that background fabric, that yellow fabric, it's really intense, you know, it's like a yellow calico. I had fabric like that once. I wanted to use it. I loved the retro vibe of it, but God help me. A yellow, bright yellow, like calico, I just couldn't make it work. But there's no other quilt in the book, there was no other quilt in the first edition like this. And the Sunbonnet Sioux, I mean, the more you look at these things, the way Rod looks at them, and the way collectors look at them, the more you see when you really see a special quilt. I mean, look at the bonnets. They're like hand cut. You know, this was hand cut. It was not using a template, you know, this quilt maker. I think the shape of the bonnet is wonderful. It's almost like a little, you know, a little comma. It looks like a little comma the way it's swinging forward. The choice of fabrics is like totally Technicolor, you know? It's like really wild, and it's special. It's special for lots of reasons, and of course the way it slopes down at the bottom, you know, to both of us, it had this movement, you know, it had this movement. And then the quilt on the right, I mean, sorry, that's Dropbox, you know, telling me, oh, you can comment on a thing, sorry. The quilt on the right I called Tiger's Eye, because we looked at so many different quilts and they all had file numbers, but they didn't have names really. So I went through and gave all the quilts we were looking at names, and just from, you know, just sort of free associating names for them. And I called this Tiger's Eye because of that pink center, you know, medallion. We talked about medallion quilts last time. It's not quite a medallion, but that center focal point to me looked a little bit like a tiger's eye stone or whatnot. I mean, this quilt, like, you know, Rod loved this quilt. It didn't make it into the first book for reasons that are just sort of boring, frankly, when you're publishing something like this, when we're working on Quiltfolk magazine. Like, there's just some photos or some paragraphs in the story that are so great, but for space reasons or layout reasons, they just don't make it in. So this quilt on the right was one of those, and we know the name of the maker, Odie Wright, from, well, the quilt was found by Rod in Hale County, Alabama, between 1960 and 1990 is the year on this. And look what's in it. Cotton, blends, you know, polyester blend or so, corduroy, upholstery fabric, bed sheet, old quilt or blanket used as batting, 71 by 80 inches. So when you talk about unconventional, you know, unexpected, quilts under the radar, you know, the quilts that Rod collects, let's see, this is one of the essays, Amelia Peck, I mentioned her before. The essays are wonderful. You know, Unconventional Unexpected, you know, these were not quilts that at the time when he started collecting these, some of you may see in quilts that look like this, these were not quilts that were really, you know, there had been some shows. The G's Bend quilts had made their appearance, but a lot of people, you know, were unfamiliar with quilts that were, you know, made across the American South at times. Some of the makers, many of them were African American makers. We don't know, of course, about a lot of them, and many of the quilts that, you know, get attributed to African American quilt makers were not made by African American quilt makers. They were made in other parts of the American South. You know, there's much more to say about that. It's a very very weird and complicated and sort of weedy conversation to talk about. Is there such a thing as the African American quilt? And people from all cultural positions and all, political positions, whatever, have a lot to say about that. And now is not the time. Okay, I won't go into it right now because it takes thought and care and some foresight too to present that topic in a way that is thoughtful to all. But some of these quilts, the style of these were known to people because of the G's Bend exhibit. I can't see the chat, so I got to go back and get the chat up here because I want to know what you're saying. But the quilts that he was collecting are they're like this, and they are unconventional. If you're a person who goes to Paducah every year, these kinds of quilts are pretty unexpected for you, and they're definitely under the radar, because if you're a person who just likes the Baltimore album quilt style and you encounter this quilt, which my psychic vibes tell me that someone in the chat is saying those look like Band-Aids, right? I can't be the only one, and that's what Rod calls this one too, the Band-Aid quilt. But this kind of quilt is not gonna come onto your radar probably if you're it's making fancy quilts, I don't know, in fancy Boston, you know what I mean? Like these are there's a different vibe, and personally I love the vibe. I live for the vibe. I love the vibe of this quilt as much as I love my perm, and that's a lot. So yeah, the book sold out. It's amazing. A copy, Rod saw a copy of this book, the first edition, going on eBay for $700. And that was not a fluke. When I needed an extra copy of the book, I had a copy that I think was in storage or something, but I needed another copy that I could mark up as we were working on the second edition. I wanted a hard copy of the book. $150. I found one for $150, and I was amazed that I could get it for that. So anyway, last year, between working on, Quiltfolk magazine during the pandemic and everything else, Mike and me and Rod and Janelle over at Quiltfolk, and pretty much the four of us, we made the second edition. So it ships in November. Okay, hey Carol. So let me catch up here. The quilts are amazing. I know, Molly, it's just ridiculous. Okay, yes, Viv, I feel your pain. Band-Aids or yarn skeins. Oh yeah, that's yarn skeins. I didn't think about that. It's true. Caroline, Band-Aids. Yeah, okay, so a modern quilter just brought out a new pattern looking like this quilt. You ordered the books. You bought it for yourself for Christmas. Truly, good job. And I'm not getting paid to say that, but you're really right to do it. Instagram.com. Oh, it's Rod Kiracofe, and I can't think of his exact handle, but when you said, Carolyn, that a modern quilter came out with a quilt that is similar, Rod Kiracofe, Roderick 752. The modern quilters in particular loved the quilts that they saw in Unconventional and Unexpected, okay? And yes, and there were a lot of patterns and a lot of modern quilts that came from, because look at this. Negative space, right? Like a lot of that fabric has just faded, but it looks, it looks like there's modern elements. Nothing new is new, right? It's all been done before. Look, it's very exciting to see the overwhelming response to Quiltfolk announcement for the release of You and You. Oops. Yeah. 568 likes, right? Like, woo. People are excited about this. Yeah, it's pretty great. They were just on vacation. Rod was just on vacation. And they had a wonderful time, sort of on a long road trip. But I want to get down to, there's Rod. So sweet. He's a very kind soul, and he cares so much about the quilts that he collects, and he's a good egg. So yeah. So follow him on Instagram, obviously, and enjoy that. So Rod, and I'm not sure where he is there, but anyway, so that's the news, you know. Rosie Lee Tompkins, wonderful. Should talk about her too. Okay, where was I? I was here. I need a chip. I need a drink of water. I need to get this thing down. Okay, Carolyn Maslumi. We will spend time on her. And that's the other thing, Molly. If you can keep track of, like, you know, all the things that I mention or that someone else mentions, like Marianne last time was like Jean Ray Laurie, you know, oh, we should look at Jean Ray Laurie 1,000%. And I wrote it down on this pad of paper, and there it is, you know. But like to have a running, like a roll of suggestions that people have, just like sparks for the next stream, would be amazing. I would be very grateful for that kind of thing. And if it's too much, just say so, and maybe we can get, like, you know, a duo going. Okay, here we go. This comes down here. And let's go look at the Library of Congress. Let's see what happens with this, okay? So we talked to Rod. Okay, let's go over here. LOC, right? All right. Is this where we want to be? Oh, okay, no, we had it up here. Okay. So what is the Library of Congress? I mean, honestly, something I was thinking about last time for the last stream is there's a danger for all of this. And the danger for me is I want to share with you what I know and like what I've been learning. Let me put it that way. Like what I know and what I was, you know, working on with this book, and here's what I know about Rod Kiracofe and all this stuff. But what I want to make sure to do is, one of the initial impulses for all of this was I want to learn more. And that means, you know, investigating and looking at things and asking questions. And there was something that happened last stream that it kind of kept me up last night, frankly. What happened was, yeah, I need a PA. You are correct. You've got our link. Good mind. So, oh, you've got it for the, oh, yes. You know, because you waved your hand first, good things will come to you. I will find ways to thank you, Molly, because, yeah, it's just a huge help. So last stream, we were talking about early American quilts, and it was so much fun. Medallion quilts. And then Marianne mentioned Indian Palumpur quilts. And I was so excited because, yeah, Indian Palumpur quilts. And I knew what to search for, and I knew where to take you all to go look at those. And you absolutely should watch the last stream, you know. Check it out. It's super fun. It was so much fun. No technical difficulty, actually. That was nice. But what I didn't do, I should have looked up the definition of Palumpur, you know? Like, I should have looked up more history of the Palumpur. And as you can see, if you're new or if you're watching this after the fact and you've never seen it before, this bounces around. I mean, this thing bounces around. It goes from Kiracofe to Library of Congress. Then we're talking about, you know, Band-Aids. You know, it really bounces around, and that's by design. It really is by design. It's partly because I'm your host, and this is just kind of how I am. But it's also by design because there's really no other place that this kind of thing could happen, I think. YouTube is great for videos. It's great for recorded content. Of course, there's live streaming on YouTube. But sharing my screen like this with you on Twitch and jumping from this to that to this to that, it's kind of what it's for, you know? And so I really bounce around a lot, and that's good. And so yesterday, I mean, I think it's good. And so far, there have been others who think it's good too. But because we bounce around so much, you know, it would have been good to look up more about Indian Palumpur. But I was so excited to, like, show you this other thing and whatnot. I have to make sure that as I'm doing this with you, I'm not just, you know, like teaching or something. I do not consider myself a teacher. That word has never come out of my mouth or my brain as this whole thing has been put together. I'm not like teaching you about quilt history at all. But I don't want to. I don't want it to just fall into some kind of lecture, you know? It's different than that. So, you know, I'm not going to do it now because I have to try to... Okay, well, Caroline asked. Okay, because you asked, Caroline, I am going to go back and show you. So, Indian Palumpur quilts, okay? Indian Palumpur quilts, and you'll have to watch the stream to get more about it. But these are these wonderful medallion... Carol, my people. Your brain bounces, my brain bounces. These wonderful, you know, sort of medallion quilts, sort of the pre-medallion quilts, this traditional Indian quilted textile, right? So, you know, but I didn't spend long enough on it to really learn about it. And it's not that I didn't learn something about it, because it was looking at medallion quilts that sparked someone else to say, what about Palumpur? And so that's, you know, that was a huge spark. I was like, oh yeah, oh my gosh, I didn't think about that. And I wanted to think about that and then move on. But at some point, you know, and some streams will be, you know, blah, 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 you know, like fireworks and I'm falling off my chair and you're falling off your chair. And maybe some other streams will be more focused. Maybe they'll be a little bit calmer. Probably not. But, you know, maybe they will be. And maybe it will really stay focused on one topic. And we will really, really dig into Palumpur, you know, and really stay on it. The thing is, what I was talking to... we're going to look up Palumpur. One of the things Eric and I were talking about, I was sharing with you that we're looking at, you know, Twitch, how to really make it fun for the viewer, and how to use the abilities that it has to, I don't know. I mean, I showed you my button board. I'm going to keep showing it off. You know, this thing is like, wow. And I've got this button that plays Dusty Springfield. And like, maybe I'll play that when someone becomes a subscriber, you know, or something like, oh, wow, you know, Caroline became a subscriber. I don't know. There's stuff like that you can do. And you can have subscriptions where people pay a little money each month and they get special stuff, you know, all that. So we were looking at those things, and one of the takeaways on it was, you know, I said, Eric, I could do this forever. I love doing it. There's so much content out there. It's endless. Quilts are so fascinating as a topic, and there's so many of us that love them, that I was like, you know, let's try to make a really cool channel, because I'm not going to get tired of it, because it's endlessly interesting to me. And so the reason I say that is when we look at Indian Palumpur, you know, we're still in the beginning of all this, you guys, you and me, you know. But maybe in a year or so, people will be familiar enough with like what this is, that a slower, you know, sort of more calm stream about one thing will be great. And some of the streams will be like, wow, wine, chips, you know, and then some of them will be a little more focused. So I just wanted to share that, because that's what's happening. Apparently the last word I looked up on my little dictionary app was arterial. Interesting. Well, Palumpur is what we're looking at now. A type of chintz used especially for bedspreads. A Palumpur bedspread. So that's interesting. Okay, now here's what I learned. So late 17th century, okay, that's what we were, well, late 17th century. We were looking at 18th century. We were looking at the 1700s. We were not looking at the 1600s, right? So 17th century means the 1600s. So it's older than I thought, right? I want to know that. I want to know that. I don't want to just tell you what I know about Palumpur, which is this much. I want to know more about Palumpur. So I have to make sure that I'm not just like, hey, you guys, check out this stuff I know. I want to make sure I'm learning too, along with you. Origin uncertain, perhaps from Portuguese. Wow. Palangapuzes. From Urdu. Wow. Persian. Now, I don't know the accent, that little accent over the S, although if it's Palangposh in Croatian, that little like antenna over the S is a sh sound. So I don't know, it could be Palangposh. Bed cover, or perhaps from Palumpur, a town in India. So I mean, it's amazing, right? It's older than I thought. I can take that away. And it's interesting that the Palumpur is a type of chintz. It's not just a bedspread. It's not just, oh, that's an Indian Palumpur, meaning that is an Indian Palumpur quilt. It means that, right? But it also means that that is Palumpur chintz. People have written long academic papers on this topic, and they're probably like, if they ever see this, they'll be like, no, that's not right, or you have so much more to learn about that. And I would say to them, it is true. Come on this Twitch stream and tell us all about it. That's something Eric and I are really working on. How do we do interviews? You know, how do we patch somebody in and talk to them with you, you know, on camera, right? It'd be super fun. So yeah, I mean, we did this though. We were right. It's a hand painted, mordant dyed Molly. Oh, you're so good, Molly. Molly, give me a latte with a bagel. No. Can you write down as something we need to talk about is dye technology, you know, and from there, like, where we could go. I mean, turkey red could be a whole thing, and we can talk about mauve and that mint green that was used in that particular shade in the Depression era quilts. You know that mint green? You know that green. We should talk about that, you know, the green, and why that green was so popular, right, at that time. All of that stuff. Oh no. I think we're having, hey, Eric.
Yeah.
I think the internet might have just gone out. I don't know.
Oh, really?
It doesn't look good. I just had a network error. I'm still streaming. Like, I'm not gonna, so I'm still live streaming. I don't know where it's at, but okay. If something weird just happened, hang on. I think it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. Re-internet. Okay. Caroline, can you give me another word for chintz? I'm not a native speaker, and when I look it up in the dictionary, chintz appears. Yeah. I think the best thing to do is to watch the stream from yesterday, because I talk a little bit about what I know about how chintz is made, which is that it's a glazed fabric, glazed muslin, or hand-painted muslin with these particular motifs, floral things, and animals and things. Okay, good. So go back and watch that, and then one day we'll talk about chintz, and Palumpur and all of that. Hang on. So let me find. You know what I should look at. And Molly, I see you with that. Let's talk about dye thing. Depression era quilt, grandmother's flower garden. I do know how to spell flower. Yeah, this green. It was everywhere, right? In the 1930s, into the 40s. Why? Why was this green everywhere? Was it just trendy? Well, yes, but there were reasons why certain different colors showed up in quilts when they did. because dye technology was changing, and, you know, that kind of green may not have been possible before that, because dyes were changing and technology was changing and manufacturing of fabric was changing and all that stuff. So when I say that, you know, I talked to Eric about how this is just an endless ride that we can go on, that's the kind of thing I mean. I mean, we can just talk about green dye. We can talk about grandmother's flower garden quilts one day. And we can do that exclusively, or we can just start there and see where it goes. So, okay. Strip quilt detail. All right, the Library of Congress. What is the Library of Congress? This is where, oh, isn't that wonderful? So that's from the Library of Congress, this quilt. Okay. What is the Library of Congress? This is me learning, okay? This is me learning. All right. We have to start there, right? This Library of Congress that has all this wonderful quilt content, these photographs and oral history projects and all of this stuff. They're kept at the Library of Congress, you know, and all this quilt stuff. Well, what is it? I want to start there, you know? So it's the largest library in the world. And I know that, you know, that they keep every book that's published, period, you know, is at the Library of Congress. There's a little gnat in here. So I knew that, but like, tell me more, right? Millions of books, recordings, photographs, newspapers, maps and manuscripts. It's the research arm, the main research arm of the U.S. Congress. The main research arm of the U.S. Congress. I didn't really know that. And the home of the Copyright Office. Interesting. I didn't know that either. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Sound problems? Sound problems? Okay. Okay, good. Oh, whew. Good. I love, my mom used to say her favorite word in the English language was never mind. Right? Because like her three daughters would be like, Mom, where's my baby? Or I can't, Mom. And then she would hear that word, never mind. So, okay, so this is cool. So I'm glad it was a never mind moment with the sound. So the library preserves and provides access to rich, diverse, enduring knowledge. Great. We have a world-class staff ready to assist you online and in person, whether you're new or experienced. Yeah, it would be good to like comments from others. Yeah, that would be good. That would be cool. Maybe there's a way. Here's the thing, Caroline. Maybe when I learn about Twitch and really get good at like the interface and stuff, maybe I can put in like a widget in the chat where you can do that. You can like someone else's comment. Listen, you can do anything these days. You can do anything these days. All right. So I know, you know, it's in Washington. Let's look at a couple fascinating facts. If someone has never been in this stream and drops in at this exact moment, they're going to be like, wow, that is not quilts. And I can only tell you, hang on. Founded in 1800. It is the oldest federal cultural institution in the nation. That is awesome. Here's what I'm going to do real quick, just because I get it. You want quilt candy. That's cool. Let me just pull this into the chat. Oh, no, I can't. Okay, hang on. Yes, I can. Okay. I'll just give you a little bit, at least a little bit of quilt stuff while we're reading this, okay? I mean, well, that's pretty bad. Okay, we're going to look at quilts in a second, but I want to know about the Library of Congress. I really do. Every working day, the library receives 15,000 items. Every day. And adds more than 10,000 of those to its collections. Be bad to be rejected by the Library of Congress, right? Materials are acquired as copyright deposits. This is fascinating, right? Items not selected are used in the national and international exchange programs. Since 1962, the Library of Congress has maintained offices abroad to acquire, catalog, preserve library and research materials from countries where such materials are essentially unavailable through conventional acquisition methods. overseas office in New Delhi, Cairo, Rio de Janeiro, Jakarta, Nairobi, Islamabad. Amazing. Amazing. The collections contain materials in some 470 languages. I mean, okay, cool. The Library of Congress is really neat. The last thing I want to do is I want to look at what it looks like. Library of Congress. I mean, oh yeah. Wait, I've been in there. Has anybody been in the Library of Congress? I have poked my head into the Library of Congress, and it is magnificent. Look at it. I mean, this is in our country, right? This is in America. I'm in England, but I'm from America, so yeah, I'm just remembering it all now. Hey, nice. They pay a federal employee salary. That is good. That is good to know, because if people are stewarding the books and the quilt history projects that we need to keep safe, they should be paid. They should be paid well. Yeah, right. Yeah, hiding away to read the contents of the Library of Congress, you'd have to find a really good hiding place. Okay. So here's what we're gonna do. Library of Congress. Let's see. Hang on. Now this is one of my favorite pictures I've ever seen in my life. It's one of my favorite pictures I've ever seen in my life. Hang on. Wow. Okay, ladies. All right. This is from the Library of Congress. And while you look at that, I'm gonna pull up the right link to get us where we were before. So this is a photograph that's kept at the Library of Congress. And it's part of a history project, basically. But I want to know more. I want to know more because I have looked at this picture and I've looked at other pictures. Here we go. I got it. About quilts in the Library of Congress, but I never really looked at what it is. So here we go. It's already, I've been on for an hour and a half, but that's just the way it is tonight. We're going to get to this Library of Congress if it kills us. Okay. So that picture of those women is magic. Obviously. So when I search for quilts, okay, I go to loc.gov. The 2021 National Book Festival. Okay, cool. Like, hey, it's LeVar Burton. National Book Festival broadcast. Look at everything. Gee, we don't even look. Quilts are awesome because they take us to all of these different places. I mean, LeVar Burton's doing a broadcast from the Library of Congress, and it's a book festival. I mean, thanks, quilts. That was cool. So search LOC. You see where I am here? I'm here. So I'm going to search. I can search everything, or I can search, audio, newspapers, photos, prints, and drawings. That's kind of cool. Hey, Carol. Hi. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here. We're hanging out at the Library of Congress from our various homes all around the world. We have people from Germany, Canada. We're all over the map, literally. Quilts. Okay, I'm just going to put that into, quilt. Put it into the Library of Congress search box, okay? And we'll see what happens. Okay, well. Looks like I can search for quilting, quilts, quilters. Results 1 through 25 of 46,111 hits. And by the way, if you are just joining, what are we doing here? What are we looking at and why? Well, if you love quilts, you don't have to be a quilt scholar. You don't have to be a quilt nerd like me and like many people probably in the chat right now, right? If you're just a person who loves quilts, looking at stuff like this that you probably you might not think to look about, yourself. You might not think to look it up on your own, not because you don't have a great imagination and you're a curious person, all of that stuff, but for the nerds are working for you. Like when I'm looking for a photograph for something I'm working on, I'm the one who can like nerd out enough to be like, I wonder if the Library of Congress has a picture of this or that. So what I can do on this stream and what you can enjoy hopefully is like you know, look at some of these quilts and be inspired by them. You know, you don't have to want to know about the Library of Congress's collection of quilt photographs. You know, who cares, right? Like, well, some of us do, but you can just be inspired by what we're bringing you, by what I can find and to show you, you know? So that's what's up. We're not writing thesis papers here. We're just having fun. So that's a book. Okay, that's a book. That's something that the Library of Congress has. But then look at this. Okay, so when I search for quilt in Library of Congress, I get all these photographs, and like, this quilt is so cool. So let's take a look at this quilt. I'm like, what is this photograph? Like, who took this photograph? It obviously looks super old. Yeah, Carol Quill, it's like super cool, right? The photograph itself looks old, okay? These files are really big, I've noticed. I mean, they have small versions of these photographs, and they have big versions of these photographs that you can download. And there are copyright restrictions, so, you know, don't go downloading things and using them willy-nilly. Although photographs from the Library of Congress can often be used by you for various things, depending on the copyright restrictions, depending on what permissions you get. But, you know, this photograph is really great. And I want to know more, you know? It's obviously a film photograph. Look at the edges. This was not taken with a phone. We can zoom in on it. Let's do, because that's what we do here. It's hanging on a clothesline. These are, you know, this, I don't know. I mean, this isn't a feed sack fabric, right? But this could be, I feel like. Oh, sorry, you can't see my mouse right now. I'm looking at the like that little floral print that's running horizontally, sort of in the lower third of the picture. Oh, maybe can you see my, yeah, you can see my cursor. Okay, sorry. So this could be feed sack. I don't know. These two dancing ladies is probably just fabric. This looks like a juvenile print, like a child's quilt kind of fabric, but it's hanging on a fence. There's a wire, you know, a telephone wire in the back. Grass, you know. So what is this, right? Where does it come from? So let's look. You can see the mouse. Okay, good. Yeah, I mean, labeling your quilts, it's a big deal. It's a big deal because maybe this has a label, maybe it doesn't, and we're going to find out. You know, hopefully we do know who made it. So it was made by Donna Choate, and the photograph was taken by Geraldine Neva Johnson. Cool. From North Carolina. I mean, it was made, or, you know, it comes from North Carolina. That's the provenance. It's got these different subject headings. Okay, this is the file, right? This is like the metadata, if you will. Ethnography, photographs. I'm driving towards something here, by the way. Look, I've seen this book, Blue Ridge Parkway Folklife Project Collection. So this photograph is part of a project. It was part of a project, the Blue Ridge Parkway Folklife Project. And look, they have a link to that, like, project. So they have all of the stuff from the Blue Ridge Parkway Folklife Project. This picture is also part of Quilts and Quilt Making in America, 1978 to 1996. So that's like a collection. That is its own collection in the LOC. And this quilt, you know, would appear there, I assume. I think that's what they're saying. But this Blue Ridge Parkway Folklife Project. So, you know, I've clicked on this like once or twice, but I've never really known more about it. Look at this. So all of the pictures in this Folklife project, not all of them have quilts in them, but a lot of them do. And this portrait of Mamie and Leonard Bryan is really beautiful, right? I mean, it's beautiful, and it's not, I don't know that the photographer was, you know, out to make some, you know, Pulitzer Prize winning photograph. I don't know, but to me, it's sort of compositionally perfect. But these people were, their picture was taken as part of this Folklife project. And this woman is a quilter, and I happen to know because we see her with some of her quilts. These are, so there's, okay, so photographs under a glass coffee table. Mamie Bryan, so we just met her showing her quilts to Jerry Johnson. Okay, 1978. So look at this, and I'm gonna go Blue Ridge Parkway Folklife Project. Okay, look at that. Isn't that great? Okay, so about this collection. So now I clicked on something down here on my monitor down here that I'm going to read to you because it's just text. So I'd rather show you pictures while I read to you about this. This is from the Library of Congress, okay? From their website. Let me get to some more photographs of quilts. Seated portrait of Laura Stanley. Okay, hang on. Let me just see if I can go to quilts. No. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Zenitad. Here's a quilt block. Here's more quilt blocks. Turkey tracks. Star block. Hang on. I'm gonna get to. Well, let's look at these. Why not? Okay. So the Blue Ridge Parkway Folklife Project was conducted by the American Folklife Center in cooperation with the National Park Service. Well, that's interesting. The National Park Service, really? 10 folklorists from the American Folklife Center conducted fieldwork in August and September 1978 and collected related materials from 1977 to 1981. The materials were collected for use in designing and improving National Park Service interpretive programs along the Blue Ridge Parkway. Interesting. The collection consists of, get this, the collection consists of sound recordings. We're going to listen to one. I've never listened to one of them. I started to earlier, and then I was like, nope, I'm going to listen to it with my peeps. Okay, it consists of sound recordings, video recordings, photographs, manuscripts, sheet music, printed ephemera. Oh, this is really good. Oh, look. We're going to listen to that. Ah! Tacking's the only way we fix quilts at home. Okay, we're going to listen to that. But here's a quilt. Ethnographer's field notes. This collection also contains that. The survey examined folklife in and around an area of the Blue Ridge Parkway at the Virginia and North Carolina border. The project documented old-time music, tales, hunting and hunting stories, farming, tobacco, cultivation and auctions. Oh wow, I'm going to go quicker. Vernacular architecture, quilting, foodways including drying, canning, and baking, religious music and beliefs, dance events featuring square dancing and flat-foot dancing. Recordings and photographs document local music, including concerts, fiddlers, contests, and music in homes, community events, church services and baptisms, local radio programs, interviews with white and African American residents. The collection includes 2 American Folklife Center publications, okay, and a final report. This online presentation. Oh, did I get him? Oh, I got that little gnat. That's awesome. I hope that wasn't too loud on the microphone. The online presentation includes the majority of the sound recordings and photographs in this collection. There's, oh my gosh. Okay, let's see. Oh yeah, I gotta get Barbara Brackman in here. Oh, I'm scared to have her in here. That would be so cool though, to have Barbara in the chat. If you don't know, Barbara Brackman is like the goddess of quilt history, and she's amazing. Okay. This, basically, the Library of Congress has this whole project, right? Like, in their collection. So let's listen to this. Audio recording, 1978. Geraldine Neva. Okay, Geraldine Neva was the one who contributed this, and I think Zena Todd is the speaker. Okay, she's going to talk to us. Okay, here we go. Yeah.
Did you ever do any quilting at home?
We didn't quilt, you know, do the quilting. We done the tacking. Now that's the way we fix quilts at home before I got married, was tack them. You know, put them in the frames and put tacks around in them.
And that's the only way you ever did it at home?
That's the only way that I ever did them at home. After I got married is when I learned to quilt, and really quilt, you know, do.
Wait a minute, what's tacking? Maybe that sounds ridiculous. Like I know it, but like I don't know it. What does she mean? Oh. Okay. So how to machine tack a quilt instead of quilting. Wait a minute, I don't know. I don't know this. We're watching this. We're watching this.
Layers together within your quilt. It's a great alternative to quilting with straight lines or even with free motion quilting. You can also use tacking as a way to bind different layers together when you're using...
Have you done this? Have you tacked a quilt instead of quilted it? Okay, I'm serious. I don't know what this is. I mean, I'm not afraid to admit that. Like, I don't know what this is. And I want to do it now because like I can tie a quilt, I can hand quilt it, I can machine quilt it. Can I tack it?
Using a non-traditional fabric such as the minky type fabric.
Minky.
So those types of fabrics tend to shift a lot on you, and so tacking is a great alternative to that. The first thing that you want to do is you want to start with a good base on your quilt. So I've basted all 3 layers. I've got my backing, my batting, and my quilt top. Next, we're going to want to mark how far apart we want to make our stitches. I'm using a chalk pencil to mark my dots. I've marked mine in a 3-inch grid. You really want to make sure that your batting can be sewn 3 inches apart or 4 inches apart or whatever distance that you want to make your tacking stitches. For our first tacking stitches, we're going to use a wide zigzag. So I'm going to place my zigzag width at a 6. I'm also going to bring the length of my stitch down to 0.5. I really want that stitch to be close together to make that nice little section of stitching.
Okay.
Place the red dot on your foot. I'm using just a regular foot. Because we're not quilting, we're not moving, we can get away with just using a regular foot on our machine, and I have my cotton quilting thread in my machine as well. So I'm going to place my dot that I've marked right in the center where it's going to hit the middle of my zigzag. I've moved forward a couple of stitches, and then I've moved back a couple of stitches, which then also helps to secure my thread together. Now all I have to do is cut my thread, and I've created a stitch. I'm going to go ahead and cut the little thread that's hanging off, and I have a beautiful tacking stitch.
Wow.
So for the next one, a couple of stitches forward, and then back stitch a couple of stitches over those original stitches.
What? Molly, you're good. You're really good. Thank you.
There we are again.
So that's so
interesting. A great way that you can use tacking is to also play around with the decorative stitches on your machine.
Oh. Oh boy. A use for the decorative stitches on my machine. I mean, come on. Do you all use those? I shouldn't say that. If you make garments or like little things, I'm sure people use the decorative stitch, but as a quilter, I just don't use that stuff very much, but maybe tacking.
One of my favorites is to use the heart motif. If you have the ability to stop your machine after a single stitch, so for this machine I have a button that allows me to make a single heart, you'll want to make sure to press that button as well. If you don't, just make sure to stop the machine when it's completed its motif.
She's cute. I like her.
Again, I'm going to put my dot right in the center of my foot, so it's going to mark the center of my stitch. I'm going to start stitching my heart.
I love this.
So that it's going to stop after it completes a full decorative heart. And cutting my thread. I'll show that one more time. Placing that dot right
it's
in
a
the
heart.
center. I'm going to start stitching my heart, pressing my button so that it's going to stop after it completes a single heart for me. And cutting my thread.
Oh, it's adorable.
When you have little loose threads on top, you're always going to want to make sure you snip those off. And
Same
tacking is a really fun way to finish off your quilt. That's a great alternative to tying it by hand.
Well, yeah. Okay, first of all, Patchwork and Poodles, subscribe. Go subscribe to her. She's adorable and talented. I mean, she's not just adorable, she's lovely, and that was a really nice video. That is so cool, y'all. I mean, I'm not ashamed to say when I don't know something. And I did not know about tacking a quilt. And who said, Viv, in the UK, tacking means basting. Like, when I was thinking like tacking, that is kind of what I was imagining. It's just sort of big whip stitches or some basting stitches. You tack it down, right? Just tack that down. But that is cool. That is cool. Tacking instead of tying or quilting. Honey, I'm learning stuff.
Awesome.
Eric says that's awesome. So we're going to look at this a little bit more, but I just want to point out what just happened here and why you should, let one person know. I have to keep doing this, you guys. I don't like selling things or promoting, but I have to do it, and I want to do it. What just happened here is that we were at the Library of Congress, and we were looking at a photograph and listening to a recording of a woman from 1978. And she said, tacking's the only way we fixed quilts at home. We heard her say it. It was a voice from beyond, right? A quilter who's probably gone, right? Ms. Zenatod. Yeah, she died. It says she died in 2012. But she tacked quilts. And so together we're like, okay, what does that mean? And because you have a host who's not afraid to look dumb, because, I look dumb all the time, we can say like, oh, what does that mean? And so then we go to the YouTube and we watch a video that was made like, I don't know, within the past couple years. That's what this is about. And it's fun. And it's different, Like, I don't know. I don't think quilt people have had something really different to do in a while. I mean, we have so much to do. We have quilts to make and we have things to go to and all that. But this is I don't know. It's fun for me. So let's listen to something else here. Here's tacking. A lot of times I'd tack the crazy quilts. Let's hear. Some of these clips are very short, as we saw, 27 seconds for one. I can't imagine that they're all that short. There may be longer ones. I have eaten a lot of these chips, I just want to say. Not too many. Not too many. Yeah, I mean, I think tacking will last better than tying 1,000%. 1,000%. The Quilter's Complete Guide, Mom and Liz's book, has a really good page on tying a quilt. But I tied a quilt for a friend one time, and I'm still terrified to ask her if it has made it through the washing machine. I mean, I'm seriously, I live in fear that, she's like, Mary Fons gave me a quilt, and it was awesome, and then I washed it, and it fell apart. I'm terrified that that's the case, so I won't even ask her about it. But, so, yes, mostly quilts. I think maybe tacking is smarter than tying. Okay. This one's 52 seconds. Let's just see. Crazy quilts specifically.
Would you quilt the crazy quilts, or would you tack?
Well, a lot of times I would, and a lot of times I tack them. But if I tacked them real close because I don't care for a tack quilt. Well, it just don't last as long. You just don't. If you laundry it, it just don't hold up as good. A quilted quilt will really hold up. And I think it's as good an investment as anybody could put their money in, is a real good quilted quilt. Because if you take care of it, I don't know how long it'd last you. I'll say 50 years or more. More than that. Because all that sewing you put in, the more sewing you put in it, the better it is.
Isn't this great? It's so great. I'm so glad I'm not doing this alone anymore. Let's just listen to a few more of these. I mean, they're just so good. I didn't like the tacking, so I wanted to learn the quilting. Bring it on, Zena. We are here for it. And I'm almost out of wine, so. Okay. Library of Congress. They're keeping all of this stuff safe, you know? Give to the Smithsonian. Or no, it's not the Smithsonian. It's the Library of Congress. Okay. Don't donate to Congress. They have enough of our money.
When I got married, I had to make quilts in a hurry. I didn't have time to fool around. It was cold weather. And so what I made then, I just tacked them. And then as I got enough to kind of keep the beds warm, I had a little more time to spare. Then's when I started with the learning to quilt. But I just didn't like the tacking, so that's why I wanted to learn the quilting.
So then his mother taught you.
Yeah, and she's still living, and she's 90.
Is she still happy with the quilting?
No, but she still makes quilts herself. She still pieces on them, and she don't do any quilting or tacking or anything, but she still kindly pieces them. She can't see too good, but it gives her something to do, and she does very well, but they don't say anything to her. They just let her, let her fool with them every time she wants to. If her children, a lot of people don't want you with them old quilt pieces a messing all over the house and all. And they fussed at her to start with, and I said, now let her alone. Let her work at that. If she not doing that, she could be walking the floor and wringing her hands and be nervous. And if she's contented to that, let her do it.
So they didn't want her just messing
No. Well, you get strings all over everything and you mess, and they fussed at her quite a bit, and I said, don't do that. Let her piece that. Just let her sit there and fool with that. If that's something for her to occupy her time with. She's always done. She's always done it. She's always quilted. Piece quilts and worked with it. She's not the best in the world. I'd say she's not the best in the world, but she won't give it up. She makes them and gives them to the children and to the grandchildren and all that.
What can you say? That's beautiful. It's just beautiful. I want to do one more. I mean, yeah, all of these are listenable at this website. I love the idea of a 90-year-old woman who's they're keeping her out of trouble and keeping her from worrying, and by putting patchwork in her hands. And she's not that great, but she gives them to the kids. I mean, it's beautiful. It's the humanity of it. Yeah, her accent, amazing. Okay, so let's do one more. Well, that's interesting. Wait a minute. Okay, no, we're gonna listen to another recording, and then I'll probably have to wind up because it's been 2 hours and I could go all night. But like Marianne told me the other day, you got to pace yourself. And by the way, Carol Hempel, she said she tied a quilt in 76 and the ties held up better than the seams. She used embroidery floss. I think I did too. When I tied that one quilt, I think I did also. I want to, don't get dizzy. I'm gonna scroll real quick through this. I get like car sick and motion sick really easily, so honestly, I warn you about that because I don't want you to get like grossed out when I'm really scrolling fast. But this is Mamie and Leonard Bryan, and I'm pretty sure that Mamie I'm pretty sure that there's recordings of her as well. Look at this. Look at her. This is the same project, okay? Yeah, Molly. Unsung quilting experts, right? Heroes and experts. I love how you called them experts. They absolutely were, because I think they've passed by now. You know, they have their birth date and death date in the record here at the Library of Congress. But yeah, they were experts. I mean, if you want to know how to make a quilt, like, talk to Mamie. You know, obviously talk to Mamie and Leonard. I mean, his suspenders, like, forget it, you know. And here's a Sunbonnet Sue, and we saw a Sunbonnet Sue earlier tonight in the very VIP look at the proof, right? Yeah, I mean, I showed you the pages from Rod Kiracofe's, the second edition of Unconventional and Unexpected. No one has seen that yet. No one but you people have seen that particular quilt yet, because the book is not out yet, the second edition. But that Sunbonnet Sue quilt that you saw is a bonus quilt in the new edition of the book. And here is a Sunbonnet Sue. I mean, Sunbonnet Sue is everywhere, you know, for a long time in American quilts. But look how different, you know, each quilter put her own, you know, design into it, her own feeling, her own pattern, her own freehand cutting, and that makes Sunbonnet Sues like worth looking at. You know, they're worth looking at for a lot of reasons, but that's pretty cool. So here's Mamie. Okay, yeah. Here's Mamie. I mean, we could just look at everything, right? That's the problem. We could look at everything. Okay. She says, I don't use no patterns. We can listen to that. I never had time for fooling, which is, yeah, I should take that advice. Don't make time for fooling. So this is a block quilt. Both of these is county pins. I'm interested in that because I don't know what county pins are. This is just out of our old clothes. Okay, so she's talking about a quilt that's made out of clothes. I don't use no patterns. I mean, they're all really, really interesting. I want to listen to two, and then I promise you, I gotta go. I want to listen to I never had time for fooling, and then both of these is county pins, because I don't know what that word means. Okay, bye Caroline. Bye Caroline. Thank you so much for coming. Come again. You're welcome here. Say hi to Andrea for me. Okay, I never had time for this. Is 2 minutes. Okay, let's listen to it.
Did you ever participate with groups at quiltings or anything?
No.
Just learned from his mother, huh?
That's right.
Did all your quilting with her?
That's right. Just, see, I never went out nowhere. I just stayed right here at home. He worked in West Virginia, and I stayed here. We had 6 children. We lost 3 of them. We've got 2 boys dead and a girl. And we got 3 girls to live. So I stayed home and keep the children. He worked in West Virginia. So all I had to stay here and keep the house and keep the children, raise the kids, to get what we've got. It come hard. I had to save everything and piece everything that I could get to keep us warm. It's sort of hard living back yonder. So most of the folks don't even realize what it's been way back then. See, I'm 79 years old. That's how old I am, 79. I've been here a long time. And worked hard. So I wasn't out in the field working, doing something like that. I was doing something like this. So I never had no time to fool.
Well, was the quilting work for you, or was that kind of something you enjoyed doing?
Well, we needed quilts, and I just had this. I wanted to stay busy.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to stay busy. I like to work.
Mm-hmm.
Now then, I work with flowers. All I do now is, if you notice, I've got flowers all around this house. I work with flowers now. I just like to stay busy.
Same. I still find time for fooling, you know. That's my problem. Mamie, she's like, no. All right, let's just see what she has to say about county pins. I just want to know. This is what I'm talking about. I want to know. I don't want to just fool. I don't have time for fooling people. I gotta learn this stuff too. So county pins. What does she mean by that? So this is. Hang on. I want to know. I mean, there's no. I don't know if there's an image that we can look at. Peddler. County pin. So she did use it. Okay, let's hear this. She's going to talk about. It is like quilt related, right? There's a transcription here, and I read ahead, and it is for sure about a quilt. I'm going to refresh. Sorry. It's a minute long. Okay.
Both of these is county pins.
The top and the bottom.
Top and the bottom is both county pins. A peddler come along here, and I bought this county pin.
I have a picture.
I bought them both. This was a pretty pink.
Sorry, I have a picture. I just found it. Okay, hang on. I'm going to pull it up. This is what she's talking about. Okay, hang on. Okay, hang on. This is like what Mamie's talking about when she's talking about county pins, okay? Let me go like this, and go like this.
And this was a kind of he called it an Indian quilt or something, county pins. And I forgot what I paid for it. And I used it was awful pretty. But I washed it and used it on the bed. It faded, and after it faded, that's what I done with it.
You turned it into a quilt, huh?
Put them both together, made me a quilt.
Mm-hmm.
What does it have inside it? What does it have as
I don't
filler?
know. I couldn't tell you. I could see it now. I don't know what it is. Just a little of everything inside. Sheets, cotton in some of them, and some of them sheets is in them. Just anything that I could use for a lining. That's the way I had to do it, so I like it.
It's pretty awesome, right? It's just county pin. Oh, Molly coming in with the county pins. Molly went and found. Oh, really, Molly? Like, email me. We need to have a Zoom meeting, okay? I'm meeting. We need to talk. County pin. Okay, a general term for a bedspread. That is a textile intended to serve as the visible top layer when a bed is made up with several layers of bed covers. Bedspread. Okay, sure. It's a bedspread. County pin. So the county pin, she said she bought them from somebody, like a salesman or somebody. So then she used that in a quilt, right? Amazing. Thank you. That's Mamie. Okay, yeah, I'm getting kind of tired. So let's quit while we're ahead. Thank you so much for coming tonight. If you are new, I saw some people coming in a little bit later. You can watch this stream on the playback and come back. We will be here Tuesday at 5 p.m. At 11 a.m. Central. But I'm going to be streaming a couple more times before then, I'm sure. So thanks so much. I love being here with you, and take care, be safe, and I think that's it. Eat some chips, obviously. Okay, bye.